For my precedent, I chose the 2010 Union Street Urban Orchard. The project was a temporary space provided to the residents of the Bankside neighborhood in central London as a part of the 2010 London Festival of Architecture. I chose this precedent because urban agriculture is really a passion of mine. In my opinion, educating people about what they can grow, even in a small amount of space, is so important, and spaces that provide this education should be in every city or town. 100 Union Street started as an empty lot in central London. The designer, Heather Ring of a company called Wayward, wanted to create a space for wayward or otherwise unwanted plants to be collected and made available for other residents to essentially adopt. Presented with the empty lot, Heather thought it would be interesting to see what it would mean for all of these unwanted plants to come together in one space to form a garden for a temporary amount of time and then be re-disseminated throughout the community. That dream quickly morphed into something much larger, incorporating many other aspects of permaculture and community bonding. The space was built out of many different reclaimed materials, including but not limited to spare wood pieces, pallets, and tires. Many of the trees that made up the orchard were placed in short stacks of tires to support them. Since this was a temporary green space for the architecture festival, it was very important that the build be low cost and as efficient as possible. The entire build took 6 weeks and was put together by about 100 volunteers. This project then grew into a community area encompassing 85 fruit trees, multiple garden sites, community areas, and more. The project educated the public about urban agriculture, biodiversity, and urban food growing, alongside film screenings, musical performances, and local community meetings. The orchard, comprised of apple, peach, plum, apricot, and other trees, allowed visitors to see firsthand how much food can come from just a few trees, and how they might be able to grow trees themselves. Visitors also had the opportunity to pick from community gardens, take home full vegetable plants, and learn about the individual plants, such as apples. Workshops were held about cider making, learning about different types of apples, and more. In addition to the educational seminars about the trees and the apples growing on them, there were also talks about beekeeping, raised bed gardening, seed saving, and more. There was even a small fish pond installed so that there could be talks about aquaponics as well. Musical performances, lectures, and film screenings were scattered throughout the weeks that the orchard was there. Additionally, on every Friday evening, the surrounding residents were invited to attend an after-hours get-together where campfires were lit, grills made hot dogs and hamburgers, and people could enjoy the space together as a community. A ping pong table and bocce court were available to play and engage both adults and children. It really seems as though the designers wanted to immerse the community in every aspect of the project that they could. Unfortunately, since this was only a temporary project, assessment metrics weren't available. Since the original idea for the project was to create a place for wayward plants, I'd be interested to see how many plants were taken to new homes in comparison to how many were dropped off. I know that at the end of the project's time, the trees and other outdoor plants were donated to local establishments and other small community gardens, but what happened to the houseplants that were dropped off? Were they brought back to the Wayward Company headquarters? Also, it would have been great to analyze how many people went home and established their own permaculture or sustainable living habits based on what they learned during the seminars and other events. Originally, I chose this precedent because I thought for scenario 1, having a community garden and different aspects of permaculture exhibited would not only be a good idea, but fundamental. Then, as I was researching the Union Street Urban Orchard and its temporariness, I realized that the space wasn't only used for the orchard. During a few different, non-consecutive years, The project site was turned into 4 more different community areas. In 2008, the space was used as a bathhouse/pool area where visitors could splash around or relax on pool decks. 2011 brought an almost identical project as the Urban Orchard by creating the Urban Physics Garden, where instead of teaching about general permaculture, visitors learned about the health benefits of certain plants. 2012 took a different turn with the Reunion Public House, a swanky bar-like location that housed film screenings and live music. And then finally, in 2013, the space was turned into a shallow boating lake for homemade boats and inflatable rafts. That's right, they turned an empty lot in central London into a man-made pond for just a few months for people to float around in. What got me thinking was, if an empty lot in central London can be turned into so many different things ranging from a bar to a man-made pond, why couldn't we turn a street into Detroit into different exhibits every year? Or perhaps we could keep standard features year to year, but then create one large exhibit that changes each year. I think that doing something like that would be really enticing to people to revisit the area again and again and always keep it interesting. And that is my presentation about the Union Street Urban Orchard.